Hello, good evening, and welcome to the championship. My name is Captain Stiff, otherwise known as Gareth. You can find me on Twitter at ghall. Come tonight to the race in the desert, and it's the Gulf Grand Prix in Bahrain at the Bahrain International Circuit of 5.4 kilometers. That's 3.36 miles, 11th longest circuit of the calendar, with about a 400-meter stretch down. Longest straight is around just over 1.09 kilometers. That's 0.67 miles. The guys today will be hitting a top speed of around 208 miles an hour. It's 335 kilometers an hour, and they approach the turn one down the long straight and full throttle for about 64% of the lap. Now, the fuel consumption around here is actually quite high, around 1.8 kilos per lap. So the guys are going to have to watch out, especially towards the end of the race, where their fuel consumption is going, where they're running rich mix, where they're running lean, whether we'll see any late race fuel consumption and fuel preservation modes with some of the guys running up towards the top end of the grid. They'll be doing about 52 gear changes per lap. That's around the race distance itself. That's 1,482 gear changes. So it's a very tricky circuit to get. It's very low grip with the sand coming from the desert across the circuit. So a lot of gear changes, making sure you're not getting too much rear wheel spin, because that's what guys will find. They'll find just lighting up those rear tyres is very, very easy around this circuit. And it's getting that ultimate setup that will get you the best possible drive out of the slower corners and down to the down the long straights, and out of turn 10 down into 11, out of 15 down into 1, equally down 13 into 14, which is probably one of the better options of overtaking down into the final two corners. It's 15 turns today, so with two DRS zones, the first being down the main straight between 15 and 1, and the second being along the second straight of turn 10 to 11. The guys will be using 3 compounds of tyres. That's the super soft, the red walls, the yellow striped soft tyres, and the white walled medium tyres. But of course, guys, if you are watching tonight, feel free to engage in the comments. It's good to see you, Chill. How are you doing? It's a shame you're not in the league tonight, but we look forward to you back as soon as you're back off holiday. You're still maintaining 5th position in the championship at the moment, and looking over the table at the moment, it is Game of the Best who took the lead of the championship last week out, as we'll just go on track and follow Joel, who's currently sitting second in the championship, only 1 point behind Gamer, as Gamer sits on 54 and Joel sits on 53 points. It was Nicky 9095 who's lost the lead in the championship, and really lost quite a bit of ground after 2 consecutive DNFs in the last 2 races. Nicky drops down to 3rd place after staying on 50 points. He's joined on 50 by Stifler 1980, who unfortunately can't join us tonight either, as well as Chill, who sits on 49 points. And Mero D2, after his win last week in Hungary, comes up within 8 points of the lead of the championship on 46 points. And then as we go down through the rest of the field, some of the guys, you got Mystic Man 22 sitting on 30 points, Jamie 6328 sitting on 24 points, Scott, that's Boy Better No SB, sits on 22 points, Malk unfortunately can't be here tonight on 19, and Craig sitting on 17 after a really rough run of form over the last few races. Now, if you look over the last race, Mero D2 did in fact take his first win of the season after another strong qualifying session and race session for him. So the last 2 races, Mero's been absolutely mighty in qualifying, and last week managed to put it in P1 and really take the race to Gamer throughout the entirety of the session. And Gamer just couldn't do anything about it. Mero and Gamer traded positions throughout the mid to late part of the race, but at the end it was just Gamer just couldn't do anything about Mero's pace, and Mero picked up his first win. The Gamer did take another podium with another second. That means that out of the 5 races that he's been part of this season, it is 2 wins and 3 second places, so he's yet to finish anywhere lower than second, which is why he's so far up that standings table at the moment. So Mr. Consistent, Game of the Best, he's just the man to be at all times. And in the Sauber tonight, once again, as we still on board here with Joel V520 in the Williams, as you can see, just getting a little bit sideways coming out of turn 10 there as he opens that DRS flap heading down into turn 11. Sure you don't run out wide, Turn 11, it just seems to go on forever until turn 12 comes, and it's keeping it online, not running out wide. You can find yourself running out wide at turn 12, and as you see there, it does quite nicely to just run onto the rumble strips on the exit of turn 13 as he goes down the second long straight as he heads towards the final two turns. This two turns here, so you've got turn 14 and a slight kink there for turn 15 as Mystic Man currently sets the fastest lap with 1:31.7. Joel will go across the line and goes on top with a 1:31 flat, so a good lap there for Joel, as Scott drops in second with another 1:31.7. so Joel 7/10 of a second faster than everyone, as Mero D2, I was saying before, has been very good in qualifying recently. At the moment a second slower than Joel, so has definitely got some work to do later in the session. We'll just check out where everyone is on the circuit at the moment. So Craig is coming down as Jamie 638 puts it on pole at the moment with a 1:30.7, so just under 3/10 of a second faster than Joel, so cracking lap there for Jamie. And Craig here just coming through the third sector as he's ending the lap. And on circuit at the moment we have got game of the best, Nicky 9095, and iMaker's the only one yet to make a entrance onto the track surface from the pit lane, as Craig gets a little bit of a slow exit out, and it looks like he's going to bail out of this lap. He does bail out of the lap, so Craig unfortunately burning through a set of super soft tyres earlier in the session. Of course, with only 9 drivers in the lobby tonight, does mean everyone is on for points tonight, and everyone will be starting on the tyres that they set the fastest qualifying lap on. So do we see iMakers or Craig stay out without setting a lap time, and potentially having the option of choosing a time when we get into the race, or is it just going to be a straight shoot for pole? So we go on board with game with the best, just as he heads down turn 10 into turn 11. Now game with the best, they're just very, very consistent. We've always seen he picks up the best lines around most of the corners. It doesn't always have to look fast. Cuts, does run out slightly wide exiting turn 13, so we'll see if that compromises him towards the end of the lap. I thought there was a front right lock up there for Gamer as he was going to open up that DRS, trying to get as much of a perfect exit out there, and he's only done a 1:32.4, so a scruffy lap for Game of the Best there, who hasn't had the best of times in the last few races when it comes to qualifying. Hasn't found himself on the front row, and so Game of the Best has definitely got some work to do. He's going to have to make up almost a second and a half. He's going to look at the front row and challenging Jamie 6328, who's currently sitting there on pole position. We'll just check in with Mero D2, who's out on his second timed lap, out on the soft compounder tyres. So Mero seeing if he can make a strategy choice, a bit of a differing strategy. Some of the other guys that will be out there on the super soft tyres, can he go faster on these soft tyres and then start on the longer living softs and possibly look to running them a little bit longer? And as it looks like Mero might be bailing out that lap, and he is, so Mero deciding the softs were not the compound to be on. Now it'll be interesting to see if he has time. Should have time to pit in and just about get in another lap. Nicky 9095 here, currently on a 1:31.6, sitting on the 4th position in the second row. As I was saying before, Nicky retiring from the last 2 races with 2 crashes on his own. So crashed out under the second Degner, under the crossover in Japan, and then last week crashed out of the Hungarian Grand Prix after running wide out of turn 5, getting onto the curb and putting his McLaren into the wall and suffering suspension damage and losing his front left hand wheel. So definitely Nicky looking to recoup some form and recoup some points again, because he's absolutely going to need some a little bit of confidence heading towards the last 2 races of the season, as we've got the race tonight in the desert in Bahrain, and then next week we are in the United States of America in Austin, Texas, and then the weekend after, or the week after, is our final race of the season in Sepang, Malaysia. And iMaker's bailed out of that lap as well, so iMaker's currently without setting a lap, as Joel looked to have maybe cut the corner there as he entered turn 13, so maybe a slight bit of a mistake for Joel there, possibly invalidated that lap. So he does have time with 3 minutes left in him, but he will have burnt those tyres out. Now does he? Slows down as they cross the line, so does he look to just cruise around this lap, try not to take too much life out those tyres, and then go for one more flying lap after that? We'll go down through and we'll see Mystic Man 22 here in the Renault heading down, locks up both tyres heading down into turn 1. Very, very tricky corner for some of these guys. They're going from full throttle or almost around 210 miles an hour as they hit, bouncing off around 100, 208 miles an hour down into turn 1, which can be taken at around 30-40 miles an hour depending on your line. You want to kiss that apex and you want to get a decent run out of turn 2 and give yourself the best opportunity of getting a good run onto turn 3. And if there are going to be overtakes made today, definitely down into turn 1 with DRS assistance is going to be where you'll see them. It's Mystic here. It's another tricky corner there. That's turn 10. It's very easy to run wide at turn 10, and that just ruins your lap because you just can't get the power down, especially as you come into the DRS zone. You just, if you've run wide coming into turn 10, you can't get that same amount of grip out of the corner, especially over the rumble strips. And unfortunately, it doesn't catapult you through the rest of the lap in the same way as it would usually as Mystic Man coming down the straight, heading down into turn 14. He locks up the front right, runs out onto the rumble strips, goes around turn 15, ever so slightly kinked as crosses the line. Does Mystic Man improve? He does. He goes up into the second row of the grid in third position with a 1:31.330, so 0.06 of a second faster than Meredy 2 currently. Of course, guys, if you are watching, feel free to engage and let me know if I've missed anything or if there's anything that you want to see. I'm more than happy to oblige and have a discussion about anything, as Jamie goes on top once again with a 1:30.7, so betters his time that he did before, and it's Jamie 6328 as Craig retires from the session without setting a time. So like I said earlier, Craig, as I'm just trying to see if we've got a yellow on circuit, I can't see anything at the moment, so unless it is Craig, but Craig deciding not to set a time, and the fact that there's only 9 drivers in the race today means that there is potential for overtakes to be made. He doesn't have to fight through too much traffic to get towards the front, and at the moment, at this part of the season where Craig is currently 37 points behind the leaders in the championship, it's just picking up points. He just wants to elevate himself above some of the other guys, and with drivers still within reach such as Malk, who's not been here tonight, Scott and Jamie, who are, and almost to an extent Mystic Man 22, with a decent amount of points, Craig can definitely see himself pulling up maybe into 6th or 7th in the championship. He just wants to elevate himself ever so slightly. He said out into the paddock that he just hasn't enjoyed himself over the last few races. He's been making a couple of mistakes and he needs to get rid of that out of his arsenal, and he's just found himself pushing a little bit too hard as he lost it out of turn 6 and 7, the chicane in Hungary last week, and put it into the wall, and essentially made an accident for himself all on his own. As we see iMakers, they're getting a little bit twitchy coming out of turn 13 in the Ferrari this week, so should have pretty much ultimate power. So Carter's very suited this circuit. He's going to run out wide on the exit of turn 15 there, and might have invalidated his lap as he does go 7th with a 1:31.6, so faster than Scott currently, who's on a flying lap heading towards the end of it. As it looks at the moment with Joel and Nicky currently have finished their laps in the 2nd and 3rd. They're not going to be challenging as Jamie retires, and boy better know, so Scott is going to pit in as well. So currently it's only Mero on circuit at the moment, but he doesn't look to be going any faster. He's not. He's going to cruise across the line in 5th position, so it's Jamie 6328 who is going to take pole position for the Bahrainian Grand Prix, and he will be joined on the front row by Joel V520, Nicky 9095 in third, with Mystic in fourth. A very interesting session there. Jamie 6328, 3/10 or just around 3/10 of a second faster than Joel, who's also had another fairly decent qualifying session, and with Joel currently, well, sitting in on the first row of the grid with his championship challenger game, or championship leader at the moment, Gamer the Best, with a poor qualifying session down, and with a 1:31.4 down in sixth in the Sauber. So we'll definitely look to see Chill. We'll definitely look to see Gamer move up during the race. And once again, guys, I will just say, I understand it says at the bottom round 8 Japanese Grand Prix. Unfortunately, that is a graphical glitch. For some reason, Twitch will not update that, so that's always great fun. But yeah, please be aware, it is round 10. We are now in round 10 in Bahrain. It's not, your eyes don't deceive you, and we're not currently under the lights in Suzuka. We are at the Bahrain International Circuit in the desert. Now, the building of Bahrain International Circuit in Sakhir was started in 2002. There was quite a high domestic interest about the project, and it gave the future of the next generation of Bahrainian racers. And we've seen that with a couple of guys within sports car racing and the Formula Asia series coming from the Middle East now. And especially drivers such as Alexander Albon starting to give the sort of Asian exposure to, well, essentially racing. So, we'll just go quickly through the results. As James 6328 in first, Joel in second, Nicky will take third, Mystic Man 22 takes fourth, Mero in fifth, Gamer in sixth, iMakers in seventh. Boy, better know that's Scott in eighth, and Craig in ninth. But yeah, going back, so they fought off fierce competition from other countries in the region, like Egypt and Lebanon, all bid to have stage a race in the Gulf area. And the UAE, who ended up taking on the Abu Dhabi race a few years later. And by the completion of the project, the circuit became the centre of motorsport in the Persian Gulf, and is used for many other races such as drag racing, GT races, Formula 3 races there, and also the Australian V8 supercars, which, if you've never had, absolutely encourage you to have a look at it, because it's very much Australia, or the Southern Hemisphere's version of the touring cars, if you just added a little bit of extra power into those engines, and they make an absolutely cracking noise. So if you do get an opportunity and you haven't seen the V8 supercars, do watch it. It's a brilliant series. And so the guys here just selecting their strategies for the race. We are under the lights. It is darkness today, so we'll see if the temperature affects the tyres any differently. Do we see it's a very low, like I was saying, very low grip, but quite a high brake wear, because the cars are going from, there's 8 high braking zones around the lap. The biggest coming at turn 1 and turn 14, so the cars, there's quite a long straights into slow corners, so the guys will be finding that they might be burning out those brakes towards the end of the race if they're not careful. So it's being careful not to stamp on that brake pedal too much when you're coming into later in the lap, because otherwise you'll find yourself burning out that brake pedal. And there is low speed traction around here, so it's quite a predominance of low speed corners where traction and tyre temperature is a huge bearing on lap time. But a way to tell that if a driver's really on it is if they're using the curbs and running over those rumble strips just about enough so that they don't pick up any sort of trouble with the race stewards. And you can straddle a couple of the corners, especially through the middle section of turn 6 and turn 7. If you just angle it right, you can run over those corners pretty much straight down the middle, and you'll absolutely fly through that turn 6, turn 7 sector with a slight kink through 5, 6 and 7. You can really make up a lot of time, as we see the guys here starting to ready up. The timer coming down now, obviously with no formation lap on. We will be racing in 20 seconds time. But for the guys today, it's looking after those rear tyres, and the tyre compound this year are a little bit harder, which means it will be less of a problem, but looking after those rear tyres will be an absolute critical decision for these guys. So they're lined up on the grid here. We have 4 lights, 5 lights The lights are out and we are off, and the Bahrainian Grand Prix, as the cars stream, the hybrid engines were into action, and the Force India leads the grid down into turn 1 as we see Jamie and Joel battling for the first position, but it is Jamie that maintains it. Further back it's just about Renault and Mystic Man and Nicky battling side by side, heading down into turn 3, turn 4, as Game of the Best currently not doing too well, has dropped down to 7th place at the moment, and it's Jamie and Joel already battling over that lead, as Joel really hassling the back of the Force India as we head down into turn 8. Joel going deeper now. Is he going to look to cut back on the Force India? It's not quite an overtaking opportunity yet, but they go down into turn 10 for the first time in the race, and Joel needing to watch how he doesn't want to clip the rear end of the Force India. All cars looking like they are damage free at the moment, all in a lovely long line, so no one having to worry about being left behind. No early mistakes. Going down we have Jamie, then Joel, Mystic, Nicky, Scott, Mero, Gamer, iMakers and Craig down in 9th position at the moment, so he'll definitely look at making up some time, as Joel is really in the back in the gearbox of the Force India in front. Does he make the move down into turn 14? He's going to peel out, look to the inside, but Jamie covers it off, and Joel's going to have to look again. Does he take a tighter line through turn 13? He does, but it's all about who got the best launch off of that final corner. As Joel here goes across the line following, and it's going to be right in the slipstream. Jamie goes defensive early down into turn 1. That's going to give Joel the outside line going round the first hairpin. As we go down, it is Jamie that just about keeps it up, as Mystic Man jumps back up ahead of Nicky 905, and it looked like we lost a Red Bull wide out onto the circuit there. It is Mero D2 who's gone majorly wide, ran very, very deep into first corner and ran out onto the sand, and he's going to have dirtied up those tyres, and he's going to really struggle for grip in the first half of this lap, as Joel still all over the back of Jamie, as it's now inviting Mystic Man in the Renault into the party, and we're now going to start to see a three-way battle for the lead. They've got a slight gap of just around a second and a half back to Nicky in the McLaren, but it's not going to take much, as Boy Better Know currently keeping Game of the Best in the sister Sauber behind him, but with the guys currently all pretty much bunched up, I think there's definitely all to play for, and everyone can still challenge for the lead at the moment, so we're not going to have to worry about anyone being left behind. It's only Mero D2 unfortunately who's going to have to make up some time, but we have seen in the last few races that it is possible to start catching up, and he has got the pace to do it. Check out position changes there, so you see Scott making up from 8th into 5th as Jamie crosses the line, sets the fastest lap 1:35.3. Does that get beaten by anyone else? Currently not, as DRS is enabled, and obviously it's going to be looks like it's going to be a bone dry race. Struggled to find a glow back in. Just Scott making up 2 positions in the first corner there, as Mystic has really fallen back from 3rd position. He's dropped back to 6th, and Game of the Best look very close to the rear end of the McLaren there, and he's going to go alongside as they head down through turn 5 into turn 6. Who's going to pull out? They're still side by side as they head down into turn 7 and turn 8, and they're still battling, and Mystic looking at trying to come back as Nicky maintains the position, but it's Scott the beneficiary, who's currently now starting to pull the lead away up into 3rd position. So an absolutely electric start from Scott. That's Boy Better Know SB, who's moved up from 8th into 3rd, as Scott in the Sauber number 99 now starting to chase down Joel V520 and Jamie for the lead. Of course, Scott, another one that finished with a DNF last week after an early crash in the race in Hungary, but after a very positive start to his IRL career with a 2nd place in Canada and a 1st place in Japan, he's definitely going to look at. We've got a yellow, and it's iMakers unfortunately in the Renault, who's gone off in what looks like turn 13, so real shame there for iMakers, who was doing well to keep onto the back of everyone. So we've got a real battle here for 4th, 5th and 6th as Mystic looks at the inside of the Sauber of Game of the Best but doesn't quite get it done. And Gamer not quite on the charge that he's been on recently. We've seen before where he started further down the grid and just charged up to the front by the end of the first few laps, and currently sitting in 5th place at the moment. So whether it's just a case of looking after his tyres as Nicky gets all out of shape coming out of turn 4 and 5 there, he's going to be well out of shape. It's going to allow Gamer and the Sauber to cruise up to the back of him, and does Gamer look to the inside, but Mystic is going to look to the inside of the Sauber going into turn 8. Nicky's going to come under real threat. He's going to go wide and he's going to slide, and he's lost both positions. Will he lose the position to Craig as well? Craig does get past the McLaren, who tried drifting around turn 10, and that's not going to help your tyre temperatures at all. And fortunately for Gamer and for Mystic and even Craig, that's essentially a free position, and it's all to do for Nicky now. We'll go back up to the top here. Sorry, I apologise. I've missed a change for the lead, and Joel V520 has taken the lead against Jamie 6328, and is currently now sitting just under a second away as Joel sets the fastest lap of the race. So got the move done. Jamie looking for a late lunge down into turn 1. That puts you slightly offline as you go into the braking point. So it's very inviting to have that the look at the lunge going into turn 1, but you don't want to put yourself offline because then you really struggle on the exit of turn 2 and turn 3. And luckily for Jamie, he's got no one behind him at the moment within 3 seconds, so he doesn't have to worry about losing too much time. What he wants to do at the moment is just wants to hassle the back of Joel and trying to force him into a mistake. We're getting a little bit of putting the power down a little bit too early coming out of turn 8 there as they enter turn 9 and turn 10. Very tricky circuit. He's gonna have DRS that does the flap. The Force India opens as they head down towards turn 11, getting it slowed down just in time. Kiss that apex to the inside left, run around that never ending corner into turn 12, and then it's all about lining yourself up for the straight off of turn 13 as they go down. Jamie currently sitting just under a second behind Joel still as they cross over DRS detection for the final for the main straight, and he's within DRS. He's only 0.6 of a second behind the moment, so that flap is going to come down once again. The Pink Panther itself is going to chase down the Williams down into turn 1. Jamie's much closer this time. Does he pull out and have a look? No, he doesn't. He stays behind, so not quite close enough yet, but you can see how close that Force India's front wing is to the gearbox of the Williams, and both cars really going at it. And Joel's made his displeasure of sitting in the Williams car and looking to move into another car as soon as possible. We can say that it doesn't handle all too well, and especially around a corner with such low grip, you want to be as planted to the circuit as possible. You don't want to get caught offline on the dusty and any sort of runoff areas where there'll be pickup and all the discarded rubber from today's race and all the support races, as they stay nicely online through turn 10 here. And it's still a 0.7 of a second lead for Joel as we're still the battle at the back, and it's Game of the Best who has made up the position on Scott and Mystic. So without us seeing, Game of the Best has moved up into 3rd position. Scott must have made a mistake earlier in the race, or earlier in the last 2 laps or so. Scott was sitting 3 seconds behind the leaders, but unfortunately now sitting in 5th position. And it's Game of the Best who's now going to be on the charge, currently sitting just under 5 seconds behind this battle for the lead. So we'll see if that does start to come down, or if he looks after his tyres in this stint and it's all about that second stint, or does anyone go for the 2-stop strategy around here? The strategy can be quite different depending on what these guys are looking at. So you can do a 2-stop strategy that, depending on your pace, can see you do 2 or maybe 2 stints on the super soft and 1 on the soft. Or will we see the guys just go for the 1 and look at going either super soft to the mediums or super soft to the soft? And with quite high tyre deg around here as Nicky picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. So most likely he'll be running over the cornering, most likely in the exit of turn 13 and turn 5, turn 6, 7 and 13 are quite easy ones to pick up extension problems with the stewards. Mero D2 unfortunately now 27 seconds behind, so may have made a stop for a new front wing as Mystic Man picks up a 3-second time penalty, so not what the Renault driver wants to see at all. Unfortunately, in a race that is looking like it might be quite close towards the end at the moment, picking up penalties is not what the guys want to be doing. We'll just go back and sit on board with Scott as he follows the Renault and the other Sauber, and we'll just follow him as they go down. As behind you can see Nicky 9095 is starting to be followed very, very closely by Craig in the Red Bull, as we've got a yellow briefly in sector 2 and sector 3, then maybe for eye makers once again. He looks to be losing time as Boy Better Know gets past Mystic, who pits very early on lap 8 out of 29 laps. So Mystic Man with an early pit stop, as Craig looking to use DRS to go around the outside of Nicky down into turn 1. Does he get the move done, or does Nicky defend? It's going to be a wide line for Craig, but that's a superb move there for the Scotsman, who gets the Red Bull around the outside of the McLaren. Now, does the McLaren have anything to come back at him with? Unfortunately, there's no DRS down this straight. He's going to have to use pure driving and drag. And just Craig just defending the position very nicely there, so putting the Red Bull in all the right positions, and Craig maintains the position that he just earned with a superb overtaking move around the outside. Looked like he'd gone a little bit too deep into turn 1, but Craig 8728 in the Red Bull gets the move done and moves up into 5th position. And we'll go back up on board with the guys at the front, with Joel V520, who's still leading this race, as the gap between the two still hovering around the 7 to 9 tenths per second. Now Joel really wants to get out of that DRS range of Jamie behind him, but Jamie's Force India always very strong in a straight line. The Force India's got a nice aero package on it, so it's all about staying within that DRS zone. As you see, there's just over a second, so he did just about stay within it as they went over DRS detection, but that's going to bring him right up to the back of it once again. But he doesn't. Once again, Jamie just looking at the back of the Williams, not making the move just yet. Doesn't want to make any desperate lunges. He knows that the race is still ongoing. There's still a long way to go as Scott comes in and Nicky comes in for a pit, so it's early pit stops for these guys. Now, do we see them move on to it's the medium tyre for Nicky and the soft tyre for Scott? So as I said before, different strategy choices and different strategy options are available to the drivers, and the medium tyre is quite slow around this circuit. It does last a lot longer than the soft tyre, but it's not the paciest of tyre at all, so it will be interesting to see what Nicky can do on it. The Force India looking much closer coming out turn 10 there as the DRS is open. It would be brave to make a lunge down into turn 11 though, as he doesn't. Just gets a slightly better entry into the corner though, so Jamie looking to have a bit of a tidier lap compared to Joel, who of course these guys still on the super softs, so they'll be the ones at the moment that will be holding out the best. And Game of the Best 3.5 seconds behind, currently on soft tyres, so Game of the Best set his qualifying lap on the soft tyre as both drivers coming in now. Does Jamie get it stopped? Do they both slow down? They do, and it's going to be nose to tail as they both enter the pit lane. It's going to be a race of the mechanics now, with both pit stalls right next to each other as well. So it's the soft tyre for, it looked like it was a soft tyre for Jamie, but unless it is the mediums, or it must be the mediums, so it looked like it was a soft, but it's another set of the super softs for Joel. So Joel looking at the 2-stop strategy here, Jamie looking at the 1, so very, very interesting for the two leaders here. And we'll see does Joel use this or this next stint to just pull away and try and get as much of a gap between himself and Jamie and Gamer the Best, who's currently now assumed the lead with him in second place. Both started on the soft compound of tyre, but a very interesting strategy choice there for the super softs. And it's going to be very interesting, as you can see, guys making all kinds of decisions up and down the grid. So race engineers crunching those numbers, making sure they've got the right choices and the right tyres on those cars, and Joel looking at possibly a two-stop and Jamie looking at the one. And we'll see with Mystic and Craig, how long can they make those soft tyres last? Can they last them long enough so that they can go on to the super softs towards the end of the race? iMaker's currently sitting down in 9th position. Meredy 2 made up the position on iMaker's because of iMaker's excursion across the sand. But cars kind of mostly equidistant away from each other at the moment, sitting around 3 or 4 seconds. It's Jamie who's starting to fall back from the back of Joel at the moment, which you would expect with Joel being on those super soft tyres, but with a stop around here taking around 20 to 24 seconds. Joel's going to have to put out quite a chunk of time if he's going to make that move done as we come onto the into the latter stages. And it's only going to be a quick stint on these supers, and I can imagine you'll probably see Joel in or maybe around 8 laps time. So it would be interesting. The soft tyre in the middle of the race probably would have been more beneficial, and then if you were looking at the two stop and super softs at the end to really put some pace down towards the end of the race. But we'll see if this pays off for the Williams driver. It's Game of the Best here. Just does he come in? He does. So it's lap 11 where Game of the Best pits in off of the soft tyres. Now what happens to Craig 8-7 behind? Does he stay out? Craig does look after his tyres very well, and so we'll see. With 17 laps left to go, it's the super soft tyres for Game of the Best, or it looked like super softs, but it is now going to be the medium. So wonderful graphical glitches from Formula 1 2017, thanks for that. But yes, it is medium tyres for Game of the Best, as Joel V520 has got the move done on Craig. So Craig may have made a mistake earlier in the lap, because Joel has cruised up to the back of him and got the move done, as Craig now on those old soft tyres, starting to struggle, starting to slow down. Perhaps this is the lap where he looks at coming in and covering off what some of the other drivers around him are doing, because he doesn't want to stay out there on tyres that are just going to give him no love and no grip around the Bahrain circuit. He'll find himself dropping down the lead, as it's now a gap of around 1.5 seconds between him and Joel. So Jamie's now going to start catching up to the back of Craig 8728 in the Red Bull. So we'll see if Craig bails into the pit lane and fits a set of the mediums like Gamer did. So we'll check here with the guys' fuel levels. So currently Joel V520 just sitting above empty, or just sitting above 0 at the moment, as you can see there. So setting a fast lap with 133.6. So on the super softs you'd expect Joel to have some absolutely blistering pace at the moment, and that's what he's got to do. He's got to go out there, he's got to stretch his legs, and he's got to get that Williams as far away from everyone else as possible if he's going to get this two-stop strategy to work. But with not much fuel on board, it will be interesting if he comes under threat later in the race, that if he can keep them behind without having to run it in lean through this second sector. As you see there, Craig with just over a lap, or just about a lap, 0.3 of fuel remain or left to expend when he needs to defend or attack. Jamie with 1.2, Mystic with 1.4, Gamer with a nice 1.75 at the moment, Scott with 0.7, Nikki with 1.3, Mero with 2.3, and iMakers with 2.8. So iMakers here has the opportunity to run Rich quite high towards the end of the stint if he's going to look at catching up to the back of Mero D2. Well, unfortunately, is not having the race that he's had over the last two, and Mero had definitely shown some flashes of brilliance over the last few races, but unfortunately today, after his early excursion across the Bahrainian desert, he just lost too much time and fell back through the grid. And on those medium tyres now, it's going to be hard to catch up to the guys running around as Jamie passes Craig down into turn one. Craig doesn't fight the position too much. He realises that he's on older tyres and the mediums, the fresher mediums that Jamie's on. As Game of the Best gets past Mystic down into turn one as well. Mystic having a look at the rear end of him again, but doesn't quite get it. Locks up the front tyres, and that's lost him quite a chunk of time. He's dropped down almost to a second behind now, so Mystic just outbroke himself coming into turn four there, and that's allowed Game of the Best to start to pull away already. And as he now starts to chase down Craig, and Craig's still out there on those soft tyres. Joel currently only with a 6.3 second lead at the moment, so needing to get the hammer down. He needs to get that Williams as far away as possible. At the moment it's not working, and even though he'll have fresher tyres come the end of the race, do the Williams team prefer track position, or do they prefer fresher tyres? It'd be very interesting to see towards the end of the races. Gaiman now right up to the back of Craig in the Red Bull, and he's looks like this is pretty elementary, and he looks like the Sauber is going to cruise past the Red Bull going down into turn one. DRS aided. Sauber pulls out from behind Craig's Red Bull. Craig once again doesn't fight it too much. Outbreaks himself going into turn one, and Gamer gets the move done and moves up onto the podium in third position, as Mystic now looking at the back of Craig, who's starting to fall down as Mystic looks to the inside going into turn four, takes the tighter line. Craig gives him the space, doesn't fight it too much, realises that it's not his fight. He needs to look after those softs. He wants to run the super softs right at the end by the looks of it, so Craig trying to stretch these softs out as long as possible. Currently not the closest battle we've got at the moment. It's a 1.5 second gap between Gamer and Jamie, so the Sauber now starting to close in on the Force India, both on the medium tyres here, so it's all about the pace of the driver behind the wheel as opposed to the tyre compound. And so Gamer is now going to have to use that underpowered Ferrari, or the 2016 or 2016 engine from the Ferrari in the back of that Sauber to attack the rear end of the Force India Mercedes. Currently sitting about 1.5 seconds behind. Gamer not shown the pace that we've seen over the races he's been in before, so not quite a track that suits the Sauber car today, and that may be the reason for his pace going, as Craig does come into the pit lane and drops down to the last. But now on the super soft tyres, we'll hopefully see Craig drop in some absolutely, well, some real hot laps if he's going to look at making up the time difference on these guys on the mediums. So Craig now with 8.5 seconds to make up on the guys in front, but on much faster tyres, and with 13 laps to use them on. These next 5 or 6 laps for Craig will be crucial to start clawing back time on the guys, as he can probably look at the moment 7th looks like it's within reach for sure, and then we'll see what Joel can do at the moment, because we know Joel has to definitely make another stop. But I believe that is everyone that's made a pit stop. It is, so everyone currently has made one pit stop. As you can see, their position changes shows that Joel started in second and Jamie and Joel have swapped positions, so Joel currently leading with Jamie in second. Gamer has moved up into third place. Mystic is holding position in fourth. Scott in fifth has made it up from 8th. Unfortunately did make it up to third but dropped back into 5th, so currently holding a three position advantage at the moment. Nicky, not the greatest of races once again for Nicky, who's sitting in 6th. Mero D2, another one who's got the move done on Nicky. There is just the two swap positions going down into turn 1, and there's a job done over the McLaren Honda, but the McLaren looking to come back at him going into turn 4. Nicky, does he look at it? He does. The two bang wheels, and Nicky looks to have pulled out of the move there. Might have just scared himself a little bit, didn't want to get too much contact between the two cars, and unfortunately it's the medium tyres that seem to have been benefiting Mero at the moment, and have the soft tyres, are they starting to go off a little bit sooner than these mediums that should easily last to the end but will be a little bit slower. As you can see there, iMaker's not far behind at the moment, so iMaker's not doing too badly after that early spin. Still within touching distance of Mero and Nicky, and it's Craig on the super soft tyres that's now not too far away from the guys in front, so not a million miles away, but it's all about putting in some consistent laps here for Craig as Mystic Man comes in for a second stop off of the soft tyres. So is it a set of the red striped super soft tyres for Mystic? It looks like it's a strategy. It looks like this is pit strategy. Now it's a set of, now it says, it looks yellow there, but it says white on the timing board, so we will see when it enters the track. It looks like it's the soft compound tyre. It looks like a second set of soft compound tyres there, and that puts him out just in front of Craig's Red Bull. But Craig, with much warmer tyres, he's going to look at trying to attack the Renault as soon as possible. Craig's tyres still relatively fresh as well, so they've definitely got life in them to get this move done. And Craig, now he's got a car in front of him, hopefully will get the impetus to follow the back of the Renault and stay. Even if he can't get the move done, what he wants to do is he wants to stay in the toe of the Renault and hope that the Renault uses those fresher tyres to pull the two of them up towards iMakers and Nicky up in 6th and 7th. Just going up to Game of the Best, who's now 1.2 seconds behind Jamie in 2nd place, so he's only made up around a tenth and a half over the last 3 or 4 laps, so not getting huge inroads as Joel pits in from the lead. And Joel, now, is this strategy decision going to pay off? He's come in for a set of soft compound tyres. He's dropped down to 3rd place. Is that going to become 4th any second? It does, as Scott gets past in the Sauber, and so it's Joel who's now dropped down to 4th from the lead, so it's a big ask for him at the moment to get it back up, who's now 12.5 seconds behind, or no, even more than that, so almost 13.5 seconds behind the leader. So quite a lot of work to do in the final 10 laps for Joel if he's going to look at taking the victory in this race, and he's already looking at the back of Scott, who didn't even try to defend there, realised that Joel was absolutely going to be on him like a... Wow, I'm sure you can all find an analogy there that I can't think of at the moment, but Joel absolutely flew around the Sauber. Scott not willing to battle the place, wants to pick up some decent points. Joel back up into the podium positions as he looks to start to close down that gap on Gamer, who's sitting behind Jamie, who's back up in first position where he started the race. As you can see there, the lead gap from the leader, Jamie's sitting 1.7 seconds ahead of Gamer, back down to 13.1 for Joel. So there you go, so 13 seconds for Joel to make up. It's now down to 12.9. We'll see by the end of the straight if it's going to come down any more. So it's not, it's hovering around 13 seconds on the moment, so it's all about where he makes up time in the corners. So with the soft compound, that slightly stickier compound of tyres, it should grip out of the corners a little bit better, should work in the warmer conditions. Even though it's night time, it will, the warmer or the warm the heat that we're used to out here in Bahrain should help those soft compound tyres. We've seen Sebastian Vettel run soft compound tyres almost 20 laps over their expected shelf life, so we know that they work around here. As Joel now is taken around 0.8 of a second as he very, very, very sideways coming out of turn 10 there, but he's has taken 0.9 of a second out of Gamer on this lap. So if he's going to look at taking around a second at the moment per lap, he's going to be right on the back of him come towards the end of the, or maybe he's going to need to take probably around 1.2, 1.3 seconds a lap out of Gamer if he's going to look at challenging Gamer for the lead, or for the, well, at least for second, and Jamie possibly for the lead of the race. Scott did pit off of that other set of softs onto the super soft tyres, so Scott now in 9th position. Craig now looking at the back of Mystic Man once again, still looking at getting that move done as Meredith picks up for 5 seconds stop go if speeding in the pit lane, as Mero looks to come off the medium tyres, so not thinking that those mediums are working particularly well. Mero moves on to the super softs. Now, two-stop strategy for quite a few of the guys on the grid today, so very interesting to see the split. And we'll see, of course, there's not just the only race we have for IRL this week. Tomorrow night, it's the Performance League at Bahrain once more. So, the Performance League tomorrow night. Feel free to join us. Nicky leaves the session, unfortunately, so he is on circuit at the moment. iMaker's getting the move done on him because he's AFK, and at the moment we'll see if Nicky can rejoin. That's unfortunate for him, who was sitting in 4th position, but Nicky at the moment in the McLaren, AFK from the session. Hopefully he can rejoin. As I was saying, the Performance League is tomorrow night, where you can join Craig and myself, who will be a guest commentator in the box, joining Craig whilst Malk is out, and we will be watching some of the quickest guys in IRL around the well, for hopefully for another duel in the desert between some really, really decent drivers. And then on Wednesday we have F1, F2 and F3, some of the most fun and competitive esport or Formula 1 esport racing you'll see anywhere on Twitch. So as Nicky does join the session again, so thankfully Nicky back in the cockpit of that McLaren and able to get back on with the race. As Craig comes into the pits off of the super softs that he's only recently been on, so it's another set of the super softs there, so very strange there for Craig. Did he feel like he took the life out of those tyres too much, because he's now dropped all the way back? I don't think that he had to take a new front wing. It didn't look like there was a new a front wing waiting there at his pit stop, so it'll be interesting to find out from Craig what happened there. As we'll now look at Gamer, who's near or right up within DRS of Jamie for the lead at the moment. Jamie holding that lead at around 1.2, but it is fluctuating between 9/10 of a second and 1.2 at the moment. So does Gamer get within DRS towards the end of the lap? It doesn't look. He looks like he's just going to be out of it. There's unfortunately Nicky leaving once again. So connection issues for the McLaren driver. Gamer 1.3 seconds behind. So that Force India's aero package just suiting it a little bit better around this circuit. And Jamie managing to just about maintain that lead between him and the Sauber driver. Now, of course, guys, as I was saying, with the other leagues that we do have our website that you can go and view the tables and the teams for all of the leagues, performance, no assists, and our Formula Series. That's invictusracingleagues.com, as Meredy 2 sets the fastest lap with 132.6 on the brand new Super Softs in the Red Bull. And on our site, as Craig picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. So, it's a Sauber of Game of the Best there. Just putting the power down a little bit too early coming out of turn 10. Of course, on our website as well, we do have our forum site where you can, if you're new to Invictus, to get involved in the community, find out from some of the drivers what their opinion of the races are. And also, if you're looking at joining Invictus for the end of the season, if you want a couple of practice races, and we are looking for applications for our 2018 game, which will be coming out in around a month's time. We are looking for applications for the leagues then, so feel free to drop in an application to the admins and they'll get back to you as soon as possible, and we'll look at getting you on board for the next season of games, or even possibly the last 2 races in this season. Equally, we do have our merchandise store. This is the site was created and run by volunteers, and there are costs that are involved. So obviously we do implore you, if you do have any spare change, just to either click and donate, or we do have a merchandise store where you can buy any Invictus branded t-shirts or hats or snapbacks, which are all pretty sharp. But any donations are always gratefully appreciated, and even if it's just a follow on any of our socials or a share to get Invictus to the wider audience, then that's always appreciated. As I was just watching here, is Gamer now tucked up right behind the back of the Force India as they head down towards or out through turn 10. He's going to go around the outside of turn 11. It'll be a very, very brave move for the Sauber. He's going to get pushed out wide by the Force India. Jamie getting his elbows out and just about keeping the Sauber behind, but Gamer's now going to look to the inside going into turn 13. Doesn't quite get the move done. Jamie just covering off in the inside line there. A late move there for Jamie to cover it off. Gamer looking really racy now. Gamer he's going to be within DRS once again. This is going to be his best opportunity in the race so far, and with 5 laps left to go, the Sauber just using the DRS. Is he going to get close enough? Does he pull to the inside? He doesn't. He's not quite close enough. He's looking at taking the outside line and going tighter in, and then switching back once again. He does, and he's got a good exit coming out of turn 3 there as they run down towards turn 4. Jamie goes defensive early into the corner at turn 4, and Sauber going around the outside. Now it's going to become Jamie running him out wide. That is fair, but Gamer's going to have the advantage going through the complex, but Jamie cuts him off very nicely. Great defensive driving there from the Force India around turn 8. And now on the outside line again, it's Jamie that's holding the inside line, holding the defensive line perfectly. Does Gamer look to dive down the inside? He doesn't. He stays up tight. He's going to look at DRS again. Gets well on the power, well early. The Sauber tucks right up behind the gearbox of the Force India once again. Jamie covering off the inside line. Gamer's going to have to go around the outside once again, as they were last lap. Jamie running him out wide again. Jamie doing some absolutely making that Force India about 40 feet wide at the moment, and all he's going to see at the moment is a blue Sauber in his wing mirrors, and it's just Gamer the best, just unrelenting with his attack in the last lap and a half, and Jamie has done absolutely brilliantly to repel any attack. But we'll see once again with DRS down into turn 1. We'll see, does Jamie defend early as he did last lap? He's not this time. Doesn't look there. There's the move to keeps the inside, but Gamer's got the advantage going around the outside. As they collide going into turn 1, Jamie just broke a little bit later, and that meant that he just ran out wide. You saw that with Bottas and Ricciardo in the Hungarian Grand Prix at the weekend, but unfortunately this time it was just Jamie just outbroke himself, just looking a little bit too long at where Gamer was and not where he was going to be, and ran into the Sauber, pushing them both out wide as they went into turn 2. And the battle for the lead really heating up now. And what is happening is Joel V520 on those soft tyres is starting to come back at them. So on those newer tyres, as Gamer cuts the corner ever so slightly at turn 10 there, and he's not as close as he was behind. So he's using this lap after the two tangled into turn 1 last lap. Gamer's just got to compose himself again and just look to come back at the Force India. But all this is while this is happening, Joel is now bringing himself right back into it, and he's taken a second out of these two in the last lap alone. So Joel really in with a shout once again with taking the lead in this race with 3 laps left to go as they cross the line heading down into the main straight now. And this Gamer, who's going to be in the slipstream of the Force India once again. Now Jamie went defensive very late last time. Does he go defensive? He does. Once again he takes the inside line. Gamer's going to have to look around the outside, but he goes for the late move. Is there once again the two collide. Luckily Gamer does not pick up any front wing damage. He looked at just dummying into the outside and moving to the inside, but he didn't get the move done. But once again he's tucked right up behind the gearbox. Does he get the move done going around the two side by side as they exit turn 4? Jamie running the Sauber out wide as every opportunity. Gamer just cannot get past him at the moment, and you don't want to run too ragged at the moment. You don't want to make too many mistakes. This is exactly the point where you don't want to pick up any unnecessary corner cut penalties, especially with 2 laps left to go in the race. After this, we have once again, as last week, a 3-car battle for the lead as we head into the final 3 laps. We've been treated to a real show of speed, especially from Joel, who on that different strategy has cruised up to the back of these guys, showing just the pace, or the absolutely outstanding pace that he's got around the Bahrain International Circuit as he looks to the inside of Gamer, who ran wide coming around turn 12, and that's going to give Joel the impetus to look at the inside. We're going to have Jamie is going to be under attack from 2 cars into 1 corner at the moment. Jamie with a poor exit out the final turn. That's going to give both cars behind DRS, so you might find yourselves with 3 cars wide going down into turn 1. What happens? Does he go defensive early and they've got a McLaren to lap ahead? Jamie defending down into turn 1. He's going to run wide once again. That's going to let Joel run up the inside. Does he takes the tighter line. Now Joel's going to get a really good run, but unfortunately, Jamie just getting very twitchy coming out of turn 2 and turn 3. That's going to let Gamer come up the inside as they head down towards turn 4 to get the move done in. It's going to be 3 wide, and Jamie moves down from first into just about, it is 3rd position. So Gamer finally gets the move done. Joel moves up into 2nd. Jamie moves from 1st into 3rd. Unfortunately for him, we see there the Williams just tapping the rear end of the Sauber. Does not look like they picked up any wing damage, but another absolutely outstanding end to the race in store for us tonight with the No Assist League in IRL. This is what you get when you sign up to this league. Some absolute barnstorm of a race. And it's Game of the Best, who's currently leading by 0.4 of a second to Joel V520, with Jamie, who only a lap ago was leading and had kept Gamer behind for 3 or 4 laps brilliantly, but made a slight error coming out of turn 3, and that allowed the Sauber up the inside, and then into turn 4 ran deep. That allowed Gamer up the inside, and it gave Joel the opportunity of making a run on Jamie, and Jamie just couldn't do anything about it. But now what does Joel do? We'll sit on board with the Williams driver as he looks at the back of the Sauber What does the Williams do? The gamer goes defensive early. Joel with the newer tyres. As gamer locks up, Joel doesn't quite have the grip to get it down on the power earlier. As Joel picks up a 3-second time penalty, absolute killer there for Joel, who as I was saying before, as they do not want to get tangled up here. Do not. This gamer getting all out of shape coming out of turn 4 and turn 5 there. But Joel now needs to get the move done. They are on the final lap of the race. We're heading into the second sector of the final lap as Joel pushing his way past, really trying to get past the Sauber, just hoping that the Sauber has a time penalty. We're going to get, as gamer goes deep into turn 10, that's allowed Joel up the inside, and the two are going to go side by side down the DRS, straight down out of turn 10 as the Sauber pushing Joel right out into the infielder, but Joel is going to get the move done going into turn 11, runs the Sauber out wide. Jamie's still going to be looking at the back of these two, thinking that he can get something done if they collect each other, but Joel was taking the lead with one sector left to go. Joel through turn 13, he's got 2 corners left to go. As gamer goes wide coming out, he gets all out of shape coming out of turn 13, and that's going to allow Jamie to come back at him going into the final corner. We're going to have a battle for the second place as gamer outbrakes himself. That's going to push Jamie offline. That means gamer's most likely going to maintain the position as Joel is going to cross the line, take the flag, but we will see. It is Gamer the Best who picks it up by 79 hundredths of a second. He wins the Bahrainian Grand Prix. Jamie 6328, who was leading until 3 laps ago, picks up second, and Joel with that 3-second penalty right at the end, right in the final lap of the race. Unfortunately for Joel, he drops down from first to third, and what an incredible end to that race. What an absolutely impeccable end for these guys who have driven their heart out, the entire league should be standing up and applauding what these guys did. As you see, we've down Meredith who does superbly to end the Grand Prix in 4th place after that early mistake dropped him right down. Eyemakers picks up a really good 5th position as he picks up some great points after having a very spotty season so far with his results. But it is Gamer the Best who picks up another victory in the No Assist Championship, and that will move him on to 66 points for the season. Joel, who unfortunately drops down to 3rd, will pick up 8 points. That will put him on to 61, so it's a 5-point lead for Gamer the Best as they head into Austin. As you see there, Gamer the Best takes the win to Jamie by 8 hundredths of a second. Joel takes 3rd, Mero takes 4th, Eyemakers takes 5th, Scott takes 6th, Mystic takes 7th, Craig takes 8th, and Nicky will come home in 9th position. And wow, what can you say about that race tonight? It had everything. It had different strategy, it had overtakes, it had a final lap battle between 3 guys willing to give everything, and absolutely heartbreaking for Joel, who unfortunately picked up that penalty on the last lap that robbed him of the victory that he really wanted, and looked vastly unlikely with his late pit stop. He made up around 8 or 9 seconds on the 2 guys ahead as they were battling, got himself involved in the battle for the lead, took the lead, but unfortunately with that late penalty drops him down to 3rd, and he will be cursing away underneath the visor of that helmet. Is sitting in the Williams, as Claire Williams knows that unfortunately the driver just made that slight error that has cost them the victory that he was desperately wanting, and he wanted to pick up his first victory since Great Britain at Silverstone. It's been a very consistent season for Joel, who's picking up there his 4th third position of the season. So, but it's Gamer the Best who picks up his 3rd win of the year. Once again, meaning that he stays. He's not been anywhere off of the first 2 spots of the podium. So, keeping up that unbelievable run of form for Gamer the Best there, and it's Jamie 6328, who had a really, really good race tonight and finished in second position after taking pole. Just couldn't keep Gamer behind. He defended for all he could, pushing Gamer out wide, and it was not to be. And unfortunately, Jamie picks up second position, but that does move him up onto 34 points. So he's starting to come up the table, and with 2 races left to go, if Jamie can do that, he can definitely push himself up into the top 6 and look to give himself some great momentum heading on to the final, or into the 2018 game. But an absolutely incredible race tonight, a superb finish for 3 guys that really, really showed their mettle, really, really showed their quality. But it's a real shame that had to end. I would have loved to have seen another 50% and another 29 laps out of that, because it was an absolute joy to watch. But of course, guys, that is not it. We are back tomorrow night for the Performance League with myself and Craig, who will be in the box watching the guys in the Performance League. And then on Wednesday, we have our F1, our F2 and F3 all at Bahrain. And you can expect another grouping of sensational races as we just had just then. But feel free to check us out on Twitter, find out all about how the leagues are going on at Invictus RL. Check out our website, invictusracingleagues.com. All of the tables will be updated. You'll find out where all your favourite drivers finished and what they're looking for the end of the season. And apart from that, check out the merchandise store, check out our socials. If you want to find any of the commentators, feel free to check out our Twitter. We'll have all of our Twitter handles on there. I'm GHall89 on Twitter. But for tonight, hopefully the Performance League can stand up to the end of that, because it was a cracking end to the race, and the guys should definitely be proud of their efforts for tonight, because they really, really showed what IRL is all about and what we offer here at Invictus Racing League. But for tonight, thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure. My name is Captain Stiff, and I will see you tomorrow night.